We are live in the Skool Community. Good morning to my Skool Community. Thank you so much for joining me. Good morning to YouTube. Welcome to anyone who will be attending live today or anyone who will be watching this on the replay. This is, as I shared in my first video, our first session of this two-part workshop. This is a little bit of an experiment, so I really appreciate your patience while we're figuring this out. The intention here today is to guide you through part 2 of this two-part workshop, and we are practicing, we're figuring out how to do this live and how to do it on YouTube. So I'm just going to pull up my screen here. We have some slides that we're going to walk through today, and I just wanted to give everybody a moment to join who will be joining live, and I think we are ready to go. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Shauna. I am the founder of Kalana Yoga, and this is a two-part workshop that I go through myself every year, and I really find a lot of value in sharing this process. So I wanted to share it with you this year. Part 1 we did last week. So if you have not had a chance to go through part 1 yet and you are on the replay, I do encourage you to finish that session first. Part 1 is really a recap, a reflection of 2025. It gives us the opportunity to close the chapter, as I like to say, by really digesting and absorbing everything that happened last year and give ourselves an opportunity to reflect on how we feel about the last year. We may have had some really high highs, we may have had some really low lows. The beautiful thing about stepping into a new year is that we do get to close the chapter on that year. It is finalized, it is complete. We are stepping into something new. But it's helpful to know what we want to leave behind in that past year or what we want to carry forward. If we have momentum in the right direction, we want to make sure we are leaning into that and we're continuing to grow in the direction of our choice. And so that is what this workshop is really helping us do today. So, let me just get my slides ready here, make sure we're all set, all good to go. I'm going to put this in a presentation mode so you don't see what's coming up next yet. We can be a little bit more focused. Alrighty, so if you have any questions or comments during this workshop, feel free to enter those into the chat or to the comment section, and I'll be glad to follow up with you either live if you're live or after the workshop has concluded. So again, this is a two-part workshop. Last week we did our reset, and this week we're really focusing on the renew. So last week we completed our reflection. We went through 2025. We analyzed it. We absorbed what actually happened from a clear mind, and we decided what we want to take with us and moving into 2026. Now, this part of the workshop is now that we've closed the chapter on 2025, we are going to step forward with a sense of determination, with a sense of confidence that we know roughly where we want to go, and also with the sense of openness that the year is not written, but we can at least have a target for where we want to go and create some action plans to get us there. This is sort of my map for the general process if we boil it down. If we plan to fail, we fail to plan. If we fail to plan, we plan to fail. So that's one of those quotes that really sticks with me because I am such a planner. I am a perfectionist in the negative sense of the word. I do hold myself back when I am trying to move forward because I feel like things need to be perfect in place. But That's an over planner. What we're trying to do today is just have a general idea of where we're trying to go. Now, in step one of this map is know where you are. And that's what we really focused on last week. We found out where we're starting from. Now we get to choose where we want to go. What do we want to accomplish in the next year? And how do we want to get there? That's also going to be in today's workshop. Planning on how to get there with grace along the way. Because no matter how much we plan, we know things are not necessarily going to go to plan. So, this is a little bit of a recap from our last session. If you have, if you did complete that last session, please grab your notebook. And if you have your pie of life, we talked about this a lot in our last workshop. This is a way for us to just assess where we are on these different categories of our lives. So, I talked about this in detail in our last session, so I'm not going to rehash all of the specifics, but just as a high level recap, what this is 10 different categories of our life. And what we're doing, or what we did, is we claimed a sense of um, we analyzed our level of satisfaction for each category, and not from a sense of judgment. We are not trying to place judgment and saying that one area is not necessarily good or bad. We're just saying, okay, based on this snapshot moment in time, how am I feeling about my love life or my career life, or how much time am I dedicating to my friendships? We can allow ourselves to analyze this from a non judgmental perspective, just so we can identify where we are currently prioritizing our time and what we do consider to be a priority. If we have, you know, not taken a pause to do this reflection and analyzation effectively, then we're just flying blind and we don't know where we want to go. By looking at these categories and analyzing where we are at the moment, we can just know where we are and then figure out how what we do want to focus on improving. Because I'll be honest, you're not going to be able to improve every category at one time. Sure, you can multitask in a couple of different categories, but you are not going to be able to do all 10 focuses at one time, and nor should you be expected to. Do not place that kind of pressure on yourself. Allow yourself to come to this with an open mind and an open heart, and realizing that you just can't have 10 balls in the air and expect to juggle them precisely forever. Something will drop. So instead of trying to juggle 10 balls, we're going to choose what 3 balls we do want to work on and how we're going to get those to be flying as high as they possibly can. So hopefully, you did your reflection and you have your results from our last session. Now, this is sort of the high level process that we're going to go through today. So, we are going to go through 3 steps to define what our goals are. We're going to go through 4 steps to actually plan out how to track those goals. And we can set up a little goal tracker for ourselves so we can keep focused on them throughout the year. If you're on YouTube, I apologize. I think my video might be covering up a little bit of the bottom there, but that bottom line does say goal tracker. So that's sort of what we're going to be going through today. Now, in order to get us into the right mind frame and the right mindset, I'd love to take an opportunity to guide you through a quick meditation so that we can embark on this journey from the right perspective. So please join me in coming to a comfortable seat. And if you feel comfortable to do so, please close your eyes. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Exhale, sigh it out. No matter what you were doing before this session today or what you have planned for after this session today, Arrive at this moment and come to your body. Taking another deep breath in through the nose and exhale, sigh it out. Just connecting with your breath, feeling it enter and feeling it leave. Coming to this precise moment in time. Our minds love to run away from the present moment. Our minds love to rehash the past or obsess over planning the future. So give your mind permission to come to this exact moment and not worry about the past or have any concerns over the future. In this moment, you are safe. In this moment, you are whole. With each breath, you are coming back home to your body, your home base. Now, hopefully, your eyes are closed or at least only partially open and not focusing on anything in particular. I invite you to imagine yourself opening up a book that is filled with moving photos, memories, quotes, random things that occurred to you that were unexpected from the last year. Opening it up and just sifting through the pages. And toward the end of the pages that have already been completed, you notice that you jotted down some notes and you recapped what happened in the last year and how you felt about it. So I invite you to flip over the page and find a new blank page in this book or journal in your mind. And notice there's nothing there. Nothing has been written. And then I want you to imagine some of the big, wild ambitions that you have for your life. Allow yourself to daydream. There is no thing holding you back, no amount of money, no amount of time, no responsibility. Just allow yourself to daydream and whisk away into the imagination of all the things that you want to do. Maybe you want to go skydiving. Maybe that's on your bucket list. Maybe you just imagine yourself cozying up in a blanket next to a fire, reading a book. Maybe you imagine yourself walking along the beach barefoot as the water gently hits your ankles. Imagine some places you might want to go. Maybe you imagine yourself on a plane to a faraway place. Maybe you imagine yourself camping out in the wilderness. Imagine the people that you want to be spending time with more this year. Imagine young kids growing before your eyes and how much they grow in 1 year. Imagine our elders passing on wisdom to us in the sunset of their lives and what we can learn and enjoy from them because time is so precious. And imagine yourself adding all of these potential memories into the book in front of you on the blank pages. And then using your breath to guide you back to your body, return to this present moment. This present moment on this day at this time. Acknowledging the length and depth of life you've already lived up until this point, and acknowledging how many blank pages are still ahead of you. It can feel infinite, but you can always use your breath to ride the wave home to yourself, to the here and the now. With your eyes closed, allow yourself to imagine the room that you're in, the place that you're seated. And on your next inhale, give yourself a gentle smile and then open your eyes. Welcome back. I hope that you're feeling a sense of calm, clear, and collected in terms of memories that you've had and dreams that you have. Because now what we're going to do is we're going to just try to dump all of those ideas out of our brain and put them somewhere. And that's not to say we're going to try to plan every single bucket list item on our list or on our calendar for this year. But it does really help to see the themes of things that are coming up for you that you really want to achieve, or what you want to accomplish, or what you hold to be very important and special to your heart. So, what we're going to do now is we are going to create our big list of big ideas. Now, hopefully, you have your journal. Hopefully, it's the same one that we used last time, but it doesn't have to be. You can always just use a blank piece of paper. Let's not overthink this or make it difficult. But just grab something to write on and then just start jotting down your big list of big ideas. Things that came up for you when you were daydreaming about things that you'd like to accomplish, places you'd like to go, people you'd like to see or spend more time with. And let's keep this to, people that are currently living, people that we can call or speak to. My only point is our big list of big ideas should include things that technically are possible. If you hope to levitate through the clouds while ambitious, that might not make it on our big list of big ideas. So take a couple moments here to just jot down some of those things that came in your head. It does not matter how unrealistic they are for this year or whatever circumstances that you're dealing with. It's just helpful to see where your head is at. Don't hold yourself back on what you want to write. It doesn't matter what order it's in. Allow yourself to just start writing. Bucket list items. These may be things that you don't do for another 5 or 10 years. That's okay. but just seeing the things that come up for you. And what's beautiful about this process, I'll share with you as you're writing, is that if you do it multiple times, maybe once a year or even maybe once a quarter, if you allow yourself to do this where you put your big hopes and dreams and ideas and plans and wishes and priorities on a list, even if you don't plan to accomplish it, on the calendar in a specific time frame, it is still really helpful to see how that list changes quarter to quarter, year to year. And it can be really interesting to notice that something has been on your list for 5 years, 10 years. And maybe that's when you realize, oh man, this is actually really important to me. Let's make time for it. Let's prioritize this trip. Let's prioritize training for this activity. At some point, you'll realize that life is moving on and it's not going to plan it for you. So it's really helpful to see these these themes that keep coming up. And it's also helpful to see when things fall off. You might have things that you write on your list this year that you don't prioritize, and by next year you come back and you're like, I don't even want to do that anymore. So it's really enlightening to see how these lists change over time. That's why it's really nice to write them down so we can go back and look at them. All right. So if you're still writing, please feel free to continue until you feel like you've exhausted everything. I am going to move on, but you are welcome to stay in your zone of writing until you get everything out and then you can rejoin us. So once we have taken our big list of big ideas and we've brain dumped everything, we are allowed to take, when we remove those items from our brain, they stop taking up so much space. If you have something that is on your list, it's been in your mind for a long time, and it has just been something that you're daydreaming about, then I invite you to either leave it on the list and let it go and free up the brain power, or make a plan and get to a resolution and get it off the list that way. Get it done. So, in this next section, what we're going to do is we're going to take our big list of big ideas and we're going to start creating goals around them that can be SMART from the acronym. So some of these might just be pie in the sky. Oh man, I want to take a, trip around the world. Sure, that's amazing, but can we start to select if that's something that we can put a a time around or a specific measurable around. So this is where we start to take the cloudy, um, you know, unformed ideas that are in our mind of our big list and big ideas, and we start to say, okay, which of these can I actually specify? Which of these can I actually measure, or do I see as being an actual possibility for this year? We can take this time to start to sort and select what becomes a more current thing that we want to plan for, a more relevant goal, or is this going to stay in our parking lot of big list of big ideas, and it has a place, it's there, it lives in our ecosystem, but it's not something that we're going to necessarily plan for right now. So, of their big list of big ideas, let's start to maybe star some of the ones that are ones that we can say, yeah, this is a priority this year. One tool that I invite you to come back to is our pie of life. So I find it helpful as you're, recognizing your level of satisfaction for each of these categories, what we can do is we can start to see where our big list of big ideas fall in the categories. So, taking one item, where does that fall in the category? Is that more of a career driven, idea or wish or goal? Or is it more family focused? Is it more in line with your health and fitness or your hobbies? So, just starting to categorize some of our big list of big ideas, wishes, wants, dreams, and hopes. And then we can start to prioritize which of these areas are a priority for us. Which of these areas do we actually want to focus on this year? We mentioned that you can't juggle 10 balls in the air and hope to keep them all going forever. So, what are the ones that we want to keep? We're going to put down, let's say, 7 balls, 7 categories, and we're going to keep 3 of them. Which of the 3 categories do you want to focus on improving this year? This is how we make a goal measurable. If it's something that is not necessarily easy to measure, you might have had a mediocre score for your friendship relationships. Maybe you feel like you're really missing out on some time with your friends that you haven't had a chance to talk to in a while because life has just gotten in the way and it's been so busy. Well, if that's sort of a hard thing to measure, but if you rate that as, say, a 4 on your pie of life at the moment, you realize that truly is a priority for you this year, then maybe your goal is to rate that at a 6 or an 8 next time you do this. And what would it take to get you to that 6 or 8? Would it take planning a trip with your friends or just simply calling them once a week and checking in? We can start to make some of these nebulous, unclear categories a little bit more tangible by just rating our current level of satisfaction and deciding that we want to increase that level of satisfaction on that category moving forward. So, what we're doing is we're defining which of the categories we want to prioritize. And we're using our SMART reference to decide what is an actual goal that we want to focus on this year. So, we talked about the friendship example. The specific goal might be I want to spend more time with my friends and increase my level of satisfaction in my friendship category from a 4 to an 8 this year. That's the measurable part. So we measured our level of satisfaction. It was a 4, and we want to get to an 8. And is it achievable? Absolutely. Is it relevant? Absolutely. Is it time bound? Absolutely. How do we make it a little bit more specific? Well, we can, we're going to dive into the how for these goals in just a moment, but your specificity of the outcome here might be I want to, which friends do I want to make more time with this year? Is it this like, oh, I just want more friends, which might be a great goal. Maybe your goal then would be to go reach out and meet new people and create more friendships for maybe you're in a new place or you're just in a new season of life that you don't have a lot of friends that are also in that season. But that's where we want it to be more specific. Are you trying to increase your number of friends or your current relationship with your existing friends? So, of the categories, we want to make sure we have roughly 3 that we want to improve, and we want to try to make their goals SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So, we can start to identify, by when do I want to feel really good about this category? Maybe it's by summer. Maybe it's by your next birthday. Maybe it's by the end of the year. Some of these goals can be done really soon, and some of these goals are going to take a lot longer. Say your goal is in the financial category. Maybe your goal is, I want to get rid of all my credit card debt. Well, that's a math problem. So if you decide that you want to put, $500 a month towards your credit card bill more to get yourself out of debt, well, then that just becomes a math problem. It might take you 8 months, it might take you 16 months to get to that point. It's still a really valid goal. It's a smart goal. But some of these goals are going to take longer than others, and that's totally okay. Time bound doesn't mean it has to be this year. It just means that you have to have some sort of marker of time that you'd like to set as a target to achieve this goal. So, hopefully, while I've been chatting through this, you have identified some of your goals that you have determined you can turn them into SMART goals. And hopefully, you've also identified a goal within roughly three of the categories listed. Now, again, it's not a specific requirement that you choose three. That's just a recommendation because between three categories, you'll probably have some that are considered shorter term win goals and some that might take a little longer to achieve. And we can only divert our focus on so many things at one time. Now, if those things are unrelated, I do think we can have more than one focus at a time. But it also just depends on what the goals are. I would love to hear from you. What are some of the categories and goals that you are selecting? What are you setting as your goals for this year or whatever time frame that you're choosing to select it for? And, if you need any feedback or if you want some guidance on this, please let me know. I'd love to help make it more clear if we can. All right, so once we have some goals figured out, then we're going to get a little more specific with what those goals are and how we can actually achieve them. So, what we just did is we defined some goals, including the SMART attributes. And we're going to get as specific and thorough in those SMART attributes as possible, which we already talked about. Smart, smart. Smart meaning specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. These are not brand new concepts that I made. I'm sure you've heard about this method of setting goals before. But I think that, when we relieve some pressure of making a perfect SMART goal and we just give ourselves permission to define as much as we possibly can and we leave the rest up to intention and up to an extent chance, then we can never relieve some of that pressure and allow ourselves to just focus on the actions that will get us closer to achieving that goal. So as we're defining our SMART attributes, let's also start to think about what are some of the obstacles that might get in the way of achieving this goal? What are some of the reasons why we haven't done so yet? Perhaps it just wasn't a priority, but perhaps there are some logistical things that we have to figure out. For example, in our friendship goal, if we want to, improve our number of friends or quality of time with our friends, then what are some of the obstacles that you've been facing? What's been causing you not to be able to spend that time doing that so far? Perhaps it's your work schedule or your parenting schedule, or, those are probably the big ones, right? Things that you have going on during the day that occupy a lot of your time. So, how can we make space for that? Well, perhaps we tell our partner, hey, this is something I really want to focus on right now. Do you mind if I schedule, an hour a week to go hang out with a friend, whether it's one friend every time or meeting a new friend, or maybe there's like a mom's group or a women's group in your area. that does get-togethers. You may not know about them, but there's probably some meetups in your area that you could look out for. And, they're just ways for people to make new friends. So, what are some of the obstacles that have currently been getting in your way? And let's start to think through how we can get over some of those obstacles. If it's your financial goal of paying off your credit card debt, what are some of those obstacles? Perhaps you have been spending more than you really should to stop accruing debt. So how can you identify that that's an obstacle? Well, what are the obstacles? Are the obstacles that you're not looking at your subscriptions and so you're paying for things you're not using? Or is the obstacle that you aren't making enough money and maybe you need to look for additional sources of income? Or maybe you're not spending enough time looking for deals and discounts and coupons. There's a lot of different things that you can identify as your obstacles. So just allow yourself to be honest with yourself and determine what are the things that have been getting in your way or what are the things that can get in your way. One of the goals you might have could be related to your health and fitness, and it might be working out is something that you are trying to add as a goal. What are some of the obstacles to working out? Do you have equipment? Do you have the time scheduled? Do you have a place to go? So just figure out what are all of the things that have been holding you back in this goal so far. And then we'll start to work through how to plan for those obstacles so that we're not just letting them come up and derail us, but we're prepared for them when they do. And so, as you're going through this, what I'd love to do next is have you write down a goal statement. Now, this is going to be maybe a little different than something you've done in the past, but what I want you to do for each of the goals that you've selected, whether it's three or however many you've chosen, I'd like you to write a goal statement for each one. It's not necessarily just one sentence, it could be a couple sentences, but as you're writing this goal statement, we're not just going to write, my goal is X to achieve by such and such date and time. What I want you to do is identify your goal statement and write it in this way. Imagine you have achieved your goal. So close your eyes and imagine, pretend that whatever goal you've set, you've achieved it. You lost the 10 pounds, you are rating yourself an 8 on the friendship scale, you've paid off your credit card debt, whatever the goal is, imagine that you achieved it. And then allow yourself to embody what that would feel like to achieve that goal. What does it feel like to have paid off the debt? What does it feel like to have 5 new best friends? What does it feel like to drop the weight and buy a new pair of pants? And now, when you write the goal, I want you to write the goal as if you've already achieved it. So you're going to write down, I have done X. I have lost 10 pounds. I have 5 new best friends. I have paid off my debt. And I feel X. I feel amazing. I feel healthy. I feel vibrant. I feel loved and like I'm making my, you know, creating my tribe. I feel less stress because I don't have my bills knocking down my door. I feel relieved. I feel, think of anything that you can feel as a result of achieving this goal. And then allow yourself to feel proud. I am proud of achieving this goal because I overcame X, Y, and Z. I made the time. I prioritized this. I didn't give up. Even when I had something happen that threw me off my game, I came back to the focus. Acknowledge the obstacles that you would have overcome as a result to achieve this goal and write the goal with your hands on paper. Don't just type it in. If you've been typing notes so far, that's fine. But this one, write down on paper with your hand and allow yourself to feel like it's true, like you're writing it, like it already happened. And do that for each of the goals. And if you need more time, pause the video or mute me until you're ready to come back on the live stream. Allow yourself to finish this for each of the goals. All right, now from this renewed sense of, I can do this, now we can start to actually plan it out. So, taking your list of goals, your 3 or 4, however many you've chosen, we are going to break them down into achievable bite size sections. So, depending on the type and scale or size of your goal, you might have one or multiple milestones. And to achieve a milestone, you have to complete either tasks or change some habits or both. So, we're going to start focusing on the how now. Now that we've identified what we want to accomplish, we know where we want to go, we know roughly when we want to get there, right? We have that time bound factor in our goal. Now we're going to start making it a little bit more achievable and attainable. Now, because we can have goals in any of our categories, these can look a little different on how we actually achieve them. So we'll go through some of the examples that we've currently been using. So let's take our friendship goal, for example. Say you're trying to meet some new friends and, you know, and or rekindle some relationships that maybe have gotten a little dormant and you want to, reinforce and restabilize those friendships. So what are some milestones that might tell you that you're on your way to achieving that goal? Maybe a milestone would be to attend a meetup of, maybe there's you know, a hobby that you really like that you can do a meetup for. If you're really into yoga, yoga classes have a really great meetup. You can go to a retreat to make some new friends and get to know some fellow yogis really well. If you have kids, you can certainly join up some mom groups. There's amazing meetups. Lots of towns have meetup groups for moms. If you are, maybe you don't have, maybe you're more of a professional and maybe you don't have young kids, then you can find a meetup that is more of a networking event. You can check meetups for those. Or, just maybe finding other friends in your company that you haven't met yet, people in different departments. So, what are some milestones that might tell you that you're on the right direction to achieving this goal? What are some things that you can do that once you've done them, you're like, all right, I took a step in the right direction? Doesn't mean you're there. It just means that you're making progress. What are some progress points that you can make to achieve that goal? And then for each of your milestones, let's figure out what are the tasks and habits that you would need to do to get to that milestone. And it's just the one milestone. So if it's, so for example, your financial goal, um, your financial goal of paying off your credit card debt, maybe one milestone might be, paying it down $1,000 or submitting a $500 payment one month. Whatever, those are all some great milestones. Those are really numerical, really quantifiable milestones. So, what are some tasks and habits that you can create for that? Well, maybe some tasks are to look, look at your spending each week or each day and track it on a spreadsheet. So you're becoming more aware of what the spending that you're doing is and how much it is. Maybe a habit is that you start, grocery shopping on, one day a week, and you go through all the coupons to see what's on sale, and you make sure that you're buying things that are on sale versus, um, you know, buying things at a higher price to save a little bit of money. Maybe you start making your own coffee instead of buying coffee. So, what are the different tasks and habits? And what's the difference between a task and a habit? Well, a task is something that you can complete one time and just check it off your list. A habit is something that you do habitually, that you do repeatedly, that gets to a point that you do it without even thinking about it. Um, so, when you have a habit, for example, you might have the habit of when you wake up, you brush your teeth. That's a habit. You do it every single day. Um, and going to the dentist is a task. You're going to do it once every, 6 months, and you check it off your list, you schedule the next one, and you're done. So that's the difference between tasks and habits. And so we're going to select the different tasks and habits that we can do for each milestone and each of the milestones that we can walk towards to achieve each goal. I hope you've been starting that as I've been walking through it. Um, and if it makes sense, you can have milestones that have their own sort of deadlines on them. Maybe your milestone um, is to, you know, well, no, never mind. I would say, yeah, let the milestone focus on the accomplishment, not necessarily on the time frame, because the time frame is really part of the goal, right? That's part of the goal. You might have like checkpoints that you want to, check in a month and see how much weight I've lost might be a milestone, but um let's focus on accomplishing those things as our milestones. So we talked about this. What's the difference between a task and a habit? Repetition creates habits. And we want to decide what are the things that we can repeat over and over. So now that you've identified what some of those tasks and habits are, let's start to map this out. And I do encourage you to pause the video when the time comes, to be able to finish mapping these out as much as you can. I've talked about this before. I think we talked about this in our last session, but I find it very helpful to have a paper planner and my digital calendar. So I use the Clever Fox paper planner. I really like this smaller one that has um, the spiral bounds because I like that I can open it up all the way and write on each page. Any planner that you would like, I'll share more about this in another video if you'd like to learn more about this planner and how I use it. But I also use my Apple Calendar or Google Calendar or whatever, my virtual calendar, because that I like gives me reminders and I can share those events with my family, my husband. So if it's something that I need him to know about is on my calendar, I put it in our family calendar. If it's something that is just for me, I put it in my side of the calendar. So I like that because it really gives that convenience feature of technology. We have technology, might as well use it. But I do both, which might seem like overkill, but I'm a planner. I like to be able to look at things in different ways, and I use them each differently. So what we're going to do now is just start to jot down your calendar for the upcoming year. And if it feels daunting to go the whole year, then maybe just do it for the next 6 months. But what we're going to do is just start mapping out the things that we know are already happening. So, do we have any trips planned? Are there any specific holidays or birthdays or celebrations that you need to be mindful of that are already on the calendar? Maybe you haven't written it down yet, but you just know it's there. It's like Christmas is December 25th every year. You may not need to write it down, but you know it's happening and it's going to affect your plans for that time of the year. So we kind of write down some of these non-negotiables, these things that we already know are going to happen, just so we start to block off space and time. So that way, when we are making our, you know, our goal tasks, we know what time we have left to work in. We're not setting ourselves up for failure by trying to double book our attention and our focus during something that's already been established on the calendar. So again, this might take some time. And you can always do this, progressively. I like to do this, quarterly at least. But really, it's just a matter of knowing what time you have to work in. That way, you're not spreading yourself too thin or, um, setting yourself up for failure. And then you can start to jot down your items for your goals. So maybe you start to put some of your milestones, your target dates on the calendar, or if you know that there are tasks that you need to complete, well, look at your existing schedule. When can you realistically do this task or incorporate this habit into your day? When we have this is where we get out of our pie in the sky and we get into the ground and we start figuring out how to actually do these things. Again, this is probably going to take some time, and I encourage you to pause the video, maybe turn on some good focus music, and just let yourself start mapping this out for the next quarter to 6 months. You don't have to do everything for the whole year, but at least mapping out, what am I going to focus on first? I can't focus on everything at one time. So, how am I going to segment my priorities when I actually have time to focus on them? And one thing I'll mention here too is you see at the bottom, well, you may not see it on YouTube, but you might notice that down here we do have a celebration section. So, what this is meaning is that you need to make sure that when you are accomplishing your milestones and your big goals, that you are pausing to celebrate. That celebration piece is so easily overlooked and blown past. But when you really give yourself that opportunity to celebrate, you are reinforcing all of those positive feelings and pride that you wrote down in your goal statements. So, if you don't give yourself a chance to celebrate, you're not going to recognize all that you've achieved. And so it's really important to celebrate even those milestones, even those tasks that you check off your list. I'm not saying you have to go on a shopping spree or a spa day every time you complete a task, but when maybe you give yourself a little bite of chocolate as a treat, or maybe you give yourself some time to, binge a show as your treat, whatever you find to be rewarding, do it and do it with a sense of, this is my reward, this is my accomplishment. So try to map out and achieve and create a calendar in your calendar, those celebrations as well. Otherwise, we'll just run right past them and we'll never stop to feel the great feelings that we deserve, that we've earned by taking even baby steps towards accomplishing our big goals. So, again, if you need more time, please pause. But I am going to move forward into our next steps. So, we've done a lot so far. Let's just pause and recap really quickly. We closed the chapter on 2025. We absorbed every ounce and essence from that year, and we cleansed ourselves from what we need to leave in the past. So we're not carrying on that extra baggage. And we've intentionally decided with confidence what we want to take with us into the new year. What do we want to continue to build upon? What momentum are we going to start with? That's how we started. And then we allowed ourselves to daydream. We thought about all of the big, wonderful things that even if we don't have time right now, we know the direction of our life that we want to take. We know what our heart is desiring, and we're giving it the opportunity to get that out of our head and onto paper so we can see our hopes and dreams embodied somewhere and allow ourselves to continue dreaming about all the wonderful things that we still have the opportunities to complete. But once we freed our hearts and our daydreams from, all the wonderful things that we can do, then we decided what can we actually focus on right now? How do we get closer to that big, ambitious, dreamy life? Well, we make a plan. So, what can we do now? What areas can we improve now, and how can we do it? So we picked a few goals from our pie of life. We prioritized what we want to focus on right now, what improvements we want to make, and we broke that into specific goals, smart goals with a specific time frame that we want to achieve it by, and then we made it attainable by breaking it into milestones, baby steps, tasks, and habits. And we made it a real possibility by putting it on the calendar. So, if you haven't finished all of those steps, then do that now. Do it while it's fresh in your mind. Finish mapping out your goal success path for each goal. Add your milestones and tasks to your calendar. Figure out how to incorporate those habits into your day. Plan how to celebrate the achievement of those milestones. And to really lock it in, make sure you are sharing these intentions, these goals, these plans with somebody that you spend a lot of time with, like your partner, your best friend, maybe a work, colleague, BFF, whoever you spend a lot of time with. Hold yourself accountable by telling them, this is what I'm working on right now. I'm so excited to celebrate after I achieve it. And that will really lock it in and make it so you are holding yourself accountable when you start to tell somebody else about it. If you'd like to tell me, I would love to cheer you on along the way and see how you are progressing toward each of the steps toward your goal. I cannot wait to see what goals you start to accomplish this year. And I really hope that you share it with me if this has helped at all. Alrighty, so just a couple words of inspiration that I want to leave you with at the end of our time here today. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Meaning, if you change nothing, nothing changes. You have to take a, a stand and move in the right direction. So I hope that this plan helps. But you also need to focus on one thing at a time. Now that we have had our daydreaming pie in the sky list, leave it on the list. That's why you wrote it down. So you can leave it there and come back to it. It does not have to take up space in your brain. So focus on one thing at a time. Dedicate space on your calendar for that thing, but also create white space for stillness, fun, calm, and relaxation. You cannot overbook your calendar. Otherwise, you get overwhelmed and you completely just let go of whatever you were trying to achieve because it's too hard. Let this be easy. Give yourself white space, give yourself time to have fun along the way. There's no sense in achieving a goal if you hate every second of your life while you're working towards it. Let it be fun. Let it become part of who you are. So, what can you let go of to make space for this new you that you're stepping into? What do you need to shed on your calendar or in other habits or tasks that you have in your life to make space for these new tasks and habits that allow you to walk towards the version of yourself you're desiring to become? And keep in mind, you can always adjust these goals. These are not written in stone. One of the reasons why we do the reflection is so we can see what our priorities are. Our priorities are allowed to change. So if you decide, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't want to lose 20 pounds. Maybe I just want to lose 10 because I feel better and I'm still healthy and I'm fine with that. And I love myself exactly who I am. I don't need to meet this goal just because I originally said it. That is fine. You are allowed to adjust. Every time you revisit this process, you are recalibrating what matters most. That way, you can make aligned, secure, confident decisions about who you are becoming. Alrighty, my friends. Again, I just want to close with a couple of moments of breath to really seal in everything that we've done today. So take a moment and close your eyes. Take a deep breath in through the nose. We've done a lot of work today. Open mouth, sigh it out. Take another deep inhale one more time, really cleansing all this chaos from our brain. And exhale, let it go. Imagine yourself reopening that book of memories, achievements, struggles, and obstacles. Imagine that it's 1 year from now. It's January 2027. Oh my gosh, how fast the year goes. And imagine that you're looking back on the memories of 2026. Imagine yourself feeling so proud of accomplishing two of the three goals that you set for yourself. And that third one is not off the list, it's just taking a little longer. And allow yourself to feel proud for staying dedicated to the version of yourself that you're trying to become. Allow yourself to recognize that each step you already are that person. You're just making sure that everybody else sees that version of you as well. Hold on to that pride for one more breath. And then allow yourself to rewind to our present day, our present body, with the determination to get to that point of reflection. It's all about consistency and grace, allowing yourself to start over whenever you need and take breaks along the way. It is a marathon, not a sprint. Alrighty, my friend, when you're ready, open your eyes and take one more deep breath. Beautiful. Remember, I am here cheering for you every step of the way, and I would love to hear what you're working on and how you're going to get there. Let me be your accountability partner. I would love to check in on you. But that is what I have for you today, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me on this workshop. If you have any comments, feedback, questions, I would love to hear it. Please either write to me, and you can reach out in our Skool community. The link is in the YouTube description if you're watching on YouTube. And you can also submit comments there and let me know how this lands for you. I appreciate your time and your energy and sharing this journey with me, and I hope it was helpful. Alrighty, my friend. I will talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your day.